I'm 19 years old, and if you're like me, most of your life was probably documented by your parents. Printed photos and home videos on tape. It's great being able to look back through these to reflect on the good old days. You know what's not great? Digging through your closet shelf to find an album, only to realize it doesn't have the photos you were looking for. Having to search your house for the tapes that contain memories of your childhood. Setting up a VHS player. Learning that the quality of these photos and videos deteriorate just by existing physically. The fear of losing irreplaceable captured moments of your life and the overwhelming burden to do something about it. So I decided the only solution was to digitize all of it. And I got these two devices which would help me do just that, which includes the Doxie GO SE photo scanner and the Elgato Video Capture device. Digitising simply means converting the analog form of information into a format that will allow you to transfer it to your computer to access, view, and organize it digitally. So for my printed photos, it meant putting them through this photo scanner and having them copied as a JPEG file onto an SD card, which I could later use to transfer onto my computer. And for the tapes, it meant using this video capture device to be able to play as well as screen record the videos in the tapes onto my laptop. So I scanned every photo and recorded every second of the tapes, backed everything up onto my external hard drive as well as a separate SSD, then locked it up in a fire and waterproof case. If you're still wondering why go through all the trouble to digitize your old printed photos, family albums, as well as home videos on tape, when you could just leave them how they are, there's a whole list of problems just by keeping it this way, and after doing much of the work myself, I can say there are 3 main benefits to this whole process. Digitising means I can plug in my hard drive or my SSD to easily look for the images on my laptop, since I've organized all the photos and videos in a system that I understand. The SSD barely takes up any physical space, and it doesn't take up a lot of digital space either. Since I have everything backed up onto my drives and on the cloud as well, there's a peace of mind knowing I'm being proactive to avoid the emotional consequences of losing or damaging the only physical copies I have. With the possibility of a house fire or a flood being prominent near my area, having the digital copies on an external drive, which is locked up in a case, has given me the confidence to let go of the physical copies if the need were to arrive. I remember when I was younger, I would always look through our family photo albums, and whenever my dad put on a tape, I found that I could watch them for hours. And to this day, I think I'm able to do the same. And I think a part of that is because there are so many stories that can be found. When I first started this process, I was going through photos of my 5th birthday party, and I realized there was a random boy I didn't recognize. And after asking my mom, she told me that she remembers this random boy wanting to join my party and play games with us. So she let him. And when I saw his face while looking at the photos, I realized that he looked exactly like one of my friends now. It's funny to think that after that day, we would later meet in high school and become good friends. And thanks to him, we still play games to this day.
Well, playing this game, yeah. There you go.
I was surprised how easy it was to remember these moments in my life just by seeing places that I've been to and seeing the faces as well as hearing the voices of people who aren't around today. Which makes me a little upset that towards the end of this process, I rushed it just to get everything done without taking the time to go through and enjoy the moments that I had helped preserve. I wasn't expecting to have to go through everything so soon, but just recently my grandma passed away. She moved to the Philippines a few years ago, so if I hadn't done this, it probably would have been a lot harder to remember what my life was like when she lived with us. The biggest motivator for me to do something like this was my first time going back to the Philippines as a teenager. I remember the excitement I had going to my grandma's house and seeing that she had old photos from earlier in her life. But I also remember the sadness I felt noticing that most of these photos had deteriorated just by sitting on the shelf over the years. And hopefully one day I'll be able to go back and scan them. There are services that allow you to do this kind of thing, but may only be fine if you only have a few photos and a few tapes to scan. Although it may be a little tedious and overwhelming, doing it yourself is probably better, since it's probably cheaper just to buy these 2 devices. You also won't have to send over the only physical copies you have to these services, which you could do the exact same thing here at the comfort of your own home. These 2 devices are still pretty pricey, but the value you get from being able to digitize these documented moments of your life just by yourself is essentially priceless. If you're looking to save money, I know Google has a free app that you can download so that you can use your phone's camera to scan your printed photos. And from my understanding, to digitize your tapes, I know that Elgato's video capture device is probably the best quality and probably the most reliable to get the best quality out of your tapes. No matter how you choose to digitize your old printed photos and home videos on tape, it's always important to remember why. Whatever the reason why, remember and be sure to make it a priority before it's too late.